I'm the managing director for MoTax Relief Now. That's a group that did the senior property tax freeze and kind of really got the ball rolling on the big tax push that we're seeing this year. So we're seeing tax freezes all across the state. We're seeing people kind of push back on some of these local taxing districts like in Jefferson County, St. Charles County, St. Louis County, where there are enough conservatives, enough fiscal conservatives. They're finally stepping up and saying no. And so I'm really proud of the work that we've done with MoTax Relief Now.
I'm hearing that we now have 91 of 115 counties in Missouri who have passed that senior property tax. So that's good. Good on you guys.
It is the most popular bill maybe ever in the state of Missouri. When they put the senior property tax freeze, when they pass the legislation, how it works is the local county, they can put forward their own. So the county commissioners, they can just get together, they can write a bill, pass it, and freeze taxes. If they don't do it, you can also do a petition, and a citizen-led petition can get it on the ballot to freeze the taxes. So we've worked with county commissioners to help them craft their legislation and to make sure that they're getting the full freeze for their seniors. And we've also worked with the people that are doing the petition drives, which has helped a lot of candidates run for office, actually. So there's some fiscal conservatives out there in the rural areas, and they'll take that petition around to their neighbors and get them to sign up, and it helps get their name out, helps protect the seniors, and helps lower taxes. And it's been a great bill, not only for the tax incentives, but also for pushing that fiscal conservative message. I was on the city council in Wildwood. We are in a very affluent area. So Wildwood and Clarkson Valley, we should be the economic engine, and we are the drivers for the St. Louis economy, and St. Louis is the economic engine for the state. And so that's why I'm going to focus on the money, the budget, appropriations, and pocketbook issues for families. So anything that we can do to make government more efficient, to get government out of your way. People that live out here in Wildwood, these are doctors, lawyers, CEOs, business owners. These are people that if the government just leaves them alone and lets the market work, they will boom, they will flourish. They will hire more people, they will help our economy grow. My job is, I think, to get the government out of their way. Those are things that our constituents in Wildwood, that they're really focused on. Don't tax me too much. Get out of my way. Make sure we have good schools, good roads, good, like they want government to work. They run businesses and they make sure their business is working. They want a government that's going to match their productivity and match their level of professionalism in Jefferson City. I've proven that I have beat back a tax increase for our local area. So they did a special election in 2025 in our school district area, and I helped lead the charge on that to beat that proposition and to save people money. So in Wildwood City Council, I am on record and my votes show that I am a fiscal conservative. So when the mayor wanted to put $250,000 of plantings in the middle of the highway, we were part of the group that said, no, we'll do 50,000. Making sure that we're watching the money, that we're watching the budgets. I've done that. Like I said, worked on tax issues, the messaging issues. So I feel like I have a good track record, and I've proven myself as a conservative. I've proven myself as a fiscal conservative. At the state level, it's all about the money and the budgets. We've doubled our budget in the last 8 to 10 years, and that only happens because people keep spending the money, and you keep giving them the money, they're going to keep spending it. One of the ways that I've kind of grown as somebody who is involved in politics and involved in government is that I really started digging into the numbers to make sure that I have a good understanding of how a budget works, where these numbers are coming from, what are the historical trends, and why are we doing this? How does it compare to other states? How does this school district compare to another school district? And really making sure that I have enough background and enough knowledge that I'm not just out here saying, cut taxes because we can cut taxes. Well, those every time you cut taxes, that could be a service that you cut as well. So making sure that I have a good understanding of what's going on, and not just talking philosophically, but actually with detail and with accuracy. That's one of the things that I've really worked on over the years.
Thanks, Niles. So we'll talk a little bit about Mo tax relief now, and you have sprinkled it into your answers, but we'll get a little more granular here with that. So you're in leadership at Mo tax relief now, and for the listeners who haven't heard of it, just what is that organization again, and what are you fighting for?
So Mo Tax Relief Now was actually started back in 2007 by the founder. His name is Dennis Ganal. And when he first got involved, he had a couple of issues that he was working on. And he's kind of like me. He's just a very involved family man guy that just wants to make things better and wants to be a part of the process. And so he got involved in 2007. He helped make the assessor an elected position instead of an appointed position. He helped raise the circuit breaker to help lower income families on their property taxes. And so he had some early success. And then Representative Ben Keithley decided to run for office. The founder, Dennis, wanted to help him do the senior property tax freeze. And so that was a very important issue to him. And whenever they started that, everybody loved it. All right. So everybody, when they pitched the idea, everybody loves the senior property tax freeze. But everybody also told them that that's a great idea and it could happen in, 3 to 5 years. Just keep pushing hard. Maybe you'll get there one day. And Dennis was like, no, I got to get this done right now. Like, I'm not waiting around for this. And they got it done in 1 year. And so they did something that is almost unprecedented, is a major property tax reform through the House, through the Senate, to the governor's desk, signed, put into action. And then they had to do a follow-up bill the next year with 757 to kind of clean up some of the language. You never get it exactly right the first try. So they passed 190, which was the senior tax freeze. They did a cleanup bill the next year. And then we've still been working on it year after year. So we got 3 more counties this year. Worked with St. Louis County to make sure that they gave the constituents a full freeze, not just a partial freeze. And Mo Tax Relief Now is really focused. We're the only group that's really focused on the taxpayer. When you go to Jefferson City and they have a committee hearing and you start talking about taxes, there's 1,800 people in charcoal gray suits that are lobbyists, that are working for the taxing districts. They're working for the public utilities. They're working for the school. Everybody comes out of the woodworks. They are the players in Jefferson City, and they're there for the money. They're there for their piece of the pie. Mo Tax Relief Now is one of the only grassroots organizations that will sit at that committee hearing and be the opposite of those lobbyists and the consultants. And they're the ones that speak up for the taxpayer. We are the ones. Mo Tax Relief Now, we are the ones who speak up for the taxpayer and say, hey, no, get your hands out of my pocket. We're not doing any more. Enough is enough. You've got plenty of our money. You're going to have to figure it out. And so that's really our focus, is on the taxpayer. We're not focused on social issues. We let other people handle those. Mo Tax Relief Now solely focused on taxes, budgets, and a little bit on the utilities side.
Okay, very good. So what does Missouri's tax burden actually look like compared to other states? Are we as competitive as we should be here in Missouri?
Well, I think if we were as competitive as we could be, then we would be winning the competition. And right now, we're not winning the competition. There are people that are fleeing high tax states in droves. So California, New York, Illinois, people are running out of those areas because of the way that their tax policies are structured. And where are they going? They're going to the no income tax states, the low tax, low regulation states, where they're pro-business. And those are the states that are growing. So Missouri's tax code, if you look at any individual tax that we do, and you just look at it, on its own, it's not terrible. So you start talking about the real estate taxes. Well, compared to a lot of other places, it's not that bad. You start talking about the sales tax. Compared to a lot of other places, it's not that bad. We're very middle of the road. And that's how Missouri is across the board. And so we're not a high tax state on any individual tax, but you get nickeled and dimed to death on everything. So it's the personal property tax, the corporate tax, the payroll tax, the sales tax, the local sales tax, the state sales tax, the CIDs, the TIFs, the tax increment finance, all that stuff added up together. And Missouri's taxpayer is feeling that burden, and the taxpayer is screaming for relief right now. And so when Mo Tax Relief Now did the senior tax freeze, it gave everybody permission to get on board with that. So at the Capitol and just in the grassroots and around the public in general, everybody's, nobody wanted to vote against grandma. So you put a senior tax freeze in place first. And who wants to kick grandma out of her home because she can't pay her taxes? Nobody. But what that did, like I said, was it started this grassroots movement for low taxes. And now we're talking about tax freeze for everybody in a lot of counties. We're talking about, the zero income tax. And we really got a lot of momentum behind us. And what we did, more than anything, we broke the monopoly of these taxing entities just reaching into your pocket every 2 years. And it's a different one every 2 years. So it's a museum board, the library board, the school board, the fire district, the police board. Every service that the government provides, they're just after you and they're coming at you from all angles. And so what Mo Tax Relief now did with the senior tax freeze is drew a line in the sand and said, no, enough is enough. We're not doing it anymore.
Very good. What does high taxation hurt the most in Missouri, and why doesn't that story get told enough?
Well, I think that because any individual tax isn't that high compared to somebody else. It's all a comparison game. So, when you talk about the property taxes, people can say, well, it's not terrible compared to, Hawaii, compared to California, compared to New York. But what the tax hurts the most is that when you tax something, you get less of it. And so like right now, the reason that we're pushing for the zero income tax is that we want to eliminate one of these streams of taxes. So, everybody has their best idea on which tax to eliminate first. You start talking about taxes, they're going to say, I want the personal property tax eliminated. That's usually the first one because that you feel like you're paying rent on your car. And then right after that, they say property taxes, they just skyrocket on me and I can't afford to stay in my home. And so that's usually the second one. And then usually third on the list is the income tax. But the income tax, that's actually the highest tax that you pay. That's the biggest bill, but you don't see it because it's just this insidious, hidden, embedded tax that your employer takes out of your check. You get your direct deposit on Fridays. And you don't even calculate how much you're paying in income tax. You hire a CPA to do your taxes at the end of the year. You just try to, oh, please don't tell me. I don't want to know how much I actually paid in income taxes. And so what we want to do with the zero income tax is really we want to encourage people to invest in themselves. We want to encourage people to save. We want you to feel like your work is really worth it and that you are able to gain so that when you get a raise, the government doesn't get a raise. And so moving from an income tax to a consumption tax, it's a more stable source of income. Especially with fiat currency and the amount of money that they print, you want to collect that on the back end rather than taking it from people up front. Because when they print all that money, where does it go? It goes to the corporations. It goes up the chain almost as fast as they print it. And so when you start taxing income, we want people to, whatever income they can get, we want you to have it for yourself so that you know how to spend your money better than the government does.
Very good. In that, what's the biggest obstacle you've run into trying to move the needle on tax policy at the state level?
Just got started, like the zero income tax really just got started this year. Some of the biggest obstacles, the hurdles that you have to cross is just one, making a big change because people are resistant to change. Whenever you give a big idea, people can shoot holes in it. It's really easy to do that. But some of the individual things that people are looking at are how will it affect the low income? How will it affect seniors or who are on a fixed income? And, is it going to be unfair and just give more money to wealthy people who don't really need it. Another concern is you're just going to raise taxes and blow up the budget. Those concerns are addressed with the legislation, but it's a tough process to get through because it is a multi-step process. So the first thing that we have to do is just ask voters, do you want to do this? And this is what puts it on the ballot and the voters have to decide. Do you want the legislature to put forth legislation that will eliminate your income tax and do it in a reasonable timeline? So that's step one. And then the second part of that is if we're going to do it, how fast do we want to do it? The trigger bill caps revenue at 2025 levels plus inflation, and anything that the government gets on top of that is returned to the people in the form of a lower income tax. So that's the core of the legislation. The second part of it is if we want to raise revenues to hit those triggers faster, do we want to expand the sales tax base? Our sales tax code was made in the 1930s, and there's a lot of services that are out there that just didn't exist back then. A lot of the stuff that you do with your podcast, I'm sure, has digital ads, digital services, online subscriptions that people are buying these days. The economy is moving online, and so the tax code should also move online to capture some of that churn in the economy to help broaden the base and to have a broad-based low rate, which is what a tax policy should be. Adding on additional taxes on services, that's a concern for people. And so what services are you going to add on? Who's going to be taxed? How much? When? They want to know everything right away. And those are things that have to be answered in time because you don't want to put all of that information in up front into the Constitution where it could never be changed again. So this will be a process that has to evolve in statutes, and not everything can go into the Constitution directly up front. And so all that big change, it scares some people. So what we have to do as to get the message out on this is to make sure that we are letting people know the full information about what the bill does, what the legislature can do, and how it's going to affect you. And so we feel like it's going to help all income levels. The lower income people, they're going to have more opportunity. Seniors, we took care of them first with the senior tax freeze, with eliminating the capital gains taxes, with eliminating taxes on Social Security income. Also, this bill, when you broaden the sales tax base, it will lower either your personal property, real property, or sales tax at the local level. So you might see lower grocery taxes in exchange for a broadened sales tax base. So this policy of moving from an income tax to a consumption tax, it's what places like Tennessee, Texas, Florida, all the states that are growing, all the states that are attracting new businesses, that are attracting population growth, this is the way to go. And we feel like Missouri can do it, should do it, and we should be the leaders in this country and not just middle of the road like we have been in the recent past.